Lovers of lore, thank you for joining me for the first installment of the Murders at Karlov Manor storyline. Wizards of the Coast is doing something a little bit different with this story. Instead of giving us a different chunk each day of the week, they are just tantalizing us with the initial setup of the story, and we will get the payoff as we go along. So, for this part of the story, we're starting off at Karlov Manor, and in fact, the entire story should take place just in this location. And it is on Ravnica. It is in the lands that are controlled by the Orzhov Guild. Now, the Orzhov considered themselves the saviors of Ravnica after helping to fend off the Phyrexians during the Great Invasion. And now, after everything has become stable, they're throwing a grand party to show the people of Ravnica that they were all safe. Magical fireworks lit the sky endlessly. The Orzhov had bought all that were available, and they were a sign as they flared in the sky to everyone who was in attendance that the Orzhov watched over them and they had nothing to worry about. Now, Teysa Karlov had seized control of the Orzhov syndicate while Kea had been off battling the Phyrexians on New Phyrexia. Teysa had decided that she was going to host a giant celebration for Ravnica's most prominent members. Now, this was strictly invitation only. No commoners were to be admitted, and glorious living hedge beasts actually roamed the grounds of the party. Now, Teysa's guest list was quite impressive. We have a number of notable people in attendance. As I mentioned, we obviously have Kea. Now, she has been manipulated into being there through her guilt. Teysa has essentially insisted that Kea has a debt to Ravnica and the Orzhov specifically. And Kea has retained her Planeswalker Spark, which makes her super useful to Teysa. In fact, Teysa calls her Orzhov's own hero of the multiverse. And Kea ends up wrestling with her guilt and her desire to use her Planeswalker powers to just leave the party altogether. But ultimately, she ends up staying. Also in attendance is an individual that we haven't encountered before by the name of Ezram. Now, he is a big player in the current setup of Ravnica. He's in charge of the Agency of Magicological Investigations. He's an Archon who rides a giant feathery beast, and he is the leader of all of the detectives of this agency. On top of that, he's also guildless, which means he is not beholden to any of the 10 guilds of Ravnica, which makes him an ideal leader for an investigatory body. Now, on top of him being there, you also have Lavinia, who is the current Azorius Guildmaster. But interestingly enough, she actively does not want to be the Guildmaster. She has multiple purposes she is working towards to help the people of Ravnica, but at the same time, she's actively looking for someone who's more suitable to take over her role. And actually, that's what makes some people believe she is best suited to the role, but ultimately, she would much prefer returning to her life of being an arrester. And as a side note, she was actively trying to get Ezram to join up with the Azorius, and the fact that he did not join up ended up really irking her. Also at the party is Tolsimir, the glorious warrior who rides a giant white wolf. And Aurelia, the Boros Guildmaster. Now, she's really angry about the agency's existence. She feels that it's really intrusive into the Boros' part of Ravnica because the Boros Guild is responsible for investigating crime. They're essentially the police force of Ravnica. From the Rakdos, you have Judith. Now, she is a famous performer who's well known for providing dramatic finales to epic Rakdos performances and ends up inflicting a lot of pain on people. But surprisingly, she's incredibly dedicated and loyal to the people of Ravnica and helped to protect them during the Phyrexian invasion. The Demir shapeshifter Lazov is brought up, and it's explained that he is most likely not dead, but it's not clear if he's in attendance at the party because, again, he is a shapeshifter, so he could literally be masquerading as anyone at this party. You also have Tomik, the Ravnikan law mage. Now, he is a higher up in the Orzhov syndicate, but he's also married to Ral Zarek, and that makes some people question whether his loyalty is pure to the Orzhov because Ral Zarek is in charge of the Izzet Guild. So the question becomes, is Tomik torn between both the Orzhov and the Izzet? And surprise, surprise, Kellen makes an appearance here too. We have seen him all over the place, and it must have been at least a few months since the Lost Caverns of Ixalan expedition he was on, because he has settled right into life on Ravnica, and he is one of the more prominent members of the investigation agency. In fact, he was taught specifically by Ezram, and he takes a bit of an attitude with the people at the party, acting as if his deductive skills are superior. And to his credit, Kellen was responsible for catching the rogue Groll god Ansrag. So that's some clear evidence that he has what it takes to do the job. From the Simic Combine, both Zagana and Vannifar were in attendance, which is quite strange because Zagana was the former guildmaster of the Simic Combine, who lost her position when Vannifar ousted her. So Vannifar currently is the guildmaster for the Simic Combine, and the two of them are conspiring together at this party for unknown reasons. And then you have essentially an uninvited guest in the form of Krenko. He sort of snuck in. He had managed to acquire an invitation that wasn't his, but he insisted that he had acquired it by legitimate means. Now, interestingly enough, Teysa was irked but reminded Krenko that he owed the Karlovs, not the Orzhov, but specifically Teysa's family, the Karlovs, a lot of money. And the angriest attendee of the party was Yaris, a Groll centaur, who was enraged that the investigation agency had detained the Groll god, and he literally ends up getting dragged out of the party, screaming at the top of his lungs. So all of these people are together in this party in Karlov Manor. And you have Teysa, who is angling to get this alone time with Kea because she has a secret that she needs to share with her. And finally, when Teysa manages to get a moment alone with her, a scream pierces the night. Someone's been murdered. And that's how they end off the first installment, with a cliffhanger. So it's going to be a little bit before we get the next installment. Hang tight. As soon as we get it, I will release it for you guys to have a listen. And in the meantime, there's over 100 other lore videos on this channel. So go enjoy some more stories. A big thank you to the channel's patrons and members for supporting what we do here. And if you enjoy these videos, then consider joining the channel membership or our Patreon. Thanks for coming by. I'll see you guys for the next video. And remember, my friends, lore is life.